Hello everybody! In this video, we'll show you how to work with Shield34. Let's start by logging. Fill in your credentials and click Sign In. We have prepared a Java Selenium project which already is configured with all the required dependencies including Shield34's and has few example tests to be used as reference. So let's start by downloading this project. Click on Show Me How. I'm starting a new project and download the Selenium Java project. Now that we have downloaded the project, we need to unzip it and open it in any IDE that you are using, or maybe a text editor if that's what you use to write tests or code. I'll be using in this demo IntelliJ. I'm going to start a new project from my IDE from existing source. We'll search what we have just downloaded. This one, that's what we have just done. Unzip and import it as a Maven. That's a Maven project, so let's import it as a Maven project. I'm just gonna leave everything on default. If you want to change the name, you can do so. Okay, and now it's being indexed, and here we have our project ready to be used. Okay, so this project has already the dependencies of testng, Selenium, and Shield34 configured in. You can see that in the POM file, and that's basically what we need in order to write tests with Shield34. So let's start by opening the src folder, test, Java. As I told you before, in this project we have some example tests that you can use as a reference. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to write tests from scratch with Shield34 to show you how easy and quick it is done. So let's start by creating a new class. So right click the Java folder, Java class, let's call it demo test 1. And let's start with writing our test. So the test that we're gonna write is would be a very simple search on google.com to demonstrate the capabilities. It's not really a test that we're gonna use. It's just to show you how easy it is done with Shield34. So let's start by adding a test annotation. That's how we are declaring a test. Please be careful to be picking here the testng one and not the JUnit one or any other framework. And once I've done that, IntelliJ, my IDE, automatically adds this import. If it's not the case on your side, you just need to add this import to the class. I'm going to be sharing all the code that we will be writing today in the video description, so it would be easier for you to take it from there or just to cross-reference. And now we're gonna be creating the method that will hold the test itself, demo test 1. Now we'll start with the test scenario itself. A small disclaimer just before we kick it off. We're not going to be writing this test according to the lots and lots of best practices out there on how to divide the project structure wise, where to have the Selenium commands and where to have the scenario itself and the certs and the page object model containers. I'm sure you're aware of some of those. So we're not going to be doing it according to those best practices because we're not writing a real test that we're going to use. Is just to show you the capabilities and how easy it is to use Shield34 commands. So that's the disclaimer, and now let's start with writing the test itself. So we'll start by creating the WebDriver the Selenium WebDriver, so I'm going to be adding an import, the Selenium WebDriver, driver, new Chrome driver. We're going to be using the Chrome driver for this test. As you know, Shield34 wraps every Selenium command. So the way to think about it is just we're creating the driver and the web elements as we do with Selenium, but the methods themselves that we call from the driver or from the web elements, we should be calling instead the corresponding ones in Shield34 SDK. So there are two wrappers that we're going to show in this video: the WebDriver wrapper and the web element wrapper. So let's start by opening the browser and navigating to google.com. As we have said earlier, that we're going to do a simple search on google.com. So instead of writing driver.get the google.com, we're going to be using the Shield34 wrapper for that. So Shield34 WebDriver wrapper, and again you can notice here that an import was added automatically. Get the same methods that the WebDriver has, and we'll provide the driver and now the URL that we want to navigate to. I hope I got that right. Yeah. Now let's move to google.com to try and search for locators for what we need. So we want to search for Shield34. So let's look at the HTML itself. So as I've said earlier, this is not a video about how to pick the perfect locators. So I'm going to go with the easiest one I see here, name equals Q. That's how I'm going to search for this search bar and interact with it from there. So let's go back to our code. Okay, so now we want to create a new web element. As you can see, an import was added. Let's call it search bar equals, and now we're going to be using the Shield34 WebDriver wrapper again, because we want to do a find element using the locator that we have picked. Find element will provide the driver by CSS selector. It's an input with name equals Q. That's it. So that's how we locate this element, which is the search bar. And now what we want to do is we want to send keys. That's how we will fill it. So here we're going to be using for the first time the Shield34 web element wrapper. So that's it. Another import was added for this class. So send keys, again the same methods like you're used to with Selenium, and here we will provide the web element and the string we want to send. Okay, so what we have done so far is we have navigated here with get to google.com. We have allocated this element by find element by this locator. That's how we got the search bar, and here with send keys we are filling the search bar with Shield34. Let's now locate the search button. So there it is. Let's check the HTML. Again, I'm gonna go with the straightforward locator here. That's not the best locator. Maybe it is, but that's not the point. Okay, so again, we'll go back to the test, and we want to create a web element. Let's call it search click. Again, the Shield34 WebDriver wrapper, find element, driver, and the locator that we have just picked, which was an input. Again, name equals btnk, and we want to click on it. So, and here we'll use the web element wrapper, because that's what we would have to do with Selenium. Driver first. Search click, because the click method that we want to use here is the click method which is in the web element class and not in the WebDriver class. That's what you would have done with Selenium. So the same thing you would have to do with Shield34. When you want to call a method which is part of the WebDriver, you would be calling the Shield34 WebDriver wrapper, and when you want to call a method in the web element class, you would call the Shield34 web element wrapper. One last thing we want to add to the test is an assertion to validate that the click did happen and we have moved to the correct page. So I'm gonna go with a very easy method here. I'm gonna just check that the page title after the click contains Shield34. I'm not gonna do that the page title equals this string, because you could be running on different languages and the Google search here could be written in your language. So I'm just going to go with contains Shield34. So we'll use the assert function or class, the test in G1. That's what I'm going to pick. Assert true. We want to get the page title. Get title contains, and eventually we want to close the browser. In order for Shield34 to build a report for every test that we run, we need to add a testng listener, which we have built, which would be collecting all the needed data for every test we run to build the report from that data. So Shield34 testng listener, that's the one. Dot class, of course. Okay, so now we are ready to run the test. I'm going to be running the test from the IDE itself. Right click here anywhere on this file. You can run it like this. If this is not showing on your side, it could mean that the testng plugin is not installed on your IDE. So please do that. It would make your life much easier. If still this is not applicable, the test can be run from a command line. So I'll be mentioning this command line in the video description. So let's run it. So now we're initializing the Chrome driver. Navigated to google.com. Now we're searching. That's it. Passed successfully. Looks good. Let's now look at the report for this test on Shield34. So let's go back to our project at Shield34. We'll navigate to reports, and here we can see the test that we have just executed. So if you're not seeing any tests on your side, even that you have executed the test, it could be that you didn't add this listener, which was a step that we have done just a bit back in the video. Just need to add this listener in order for Shield34 to collect all the data of every test that we run. So going back to Shield34, so we have ran here only one test. So we only have one test. That's all the commands that all the steps that we had in the test itself. We have detailed explanation of what happened there, including screenshots. So, and if you notice, we didn't mention anything in the code itself about reporting stuff to the report. We didn't mention the report at all. So all that we see here, the tests that we run with their inner steps, screenshots and stuff, is done automatically by Shield34 only by adding this listener here and using the commands themselves. Shield34 is able to build the report for you automatically. Another thing that we didn't mention before is that we didn't add here any waiting times before the commands themselves, or any exception handling, error handling, validation that the commands were executed successfully. Every thing around this side is done automatically by Shield34. So the find element, the send keys, the click, all the commands that we wrapped, we have all these algorithms built in, and that's also part of how we build this report. So other than this report, we collect much more data than what we see here. So Shield34 collects automatically the HTML itself of the page, all the APIs or XHR requests which were executing between the browser and the server, browser console log, cookies, duration, CPU, memory, screen resolution, browser type, everything involved in the test itself. We collect this data, and once a test has failed, like this one, you can see here XHR request is being reported as well. It's done automatically. When I wrote this test, I didn't have to write any command to report this data here to the report, and you can see we're here have this icon. That's the anomaly icon, which once clicked, you can say you can see that we compare this failed run to the previous successful runs of this same test. So here we can see that XHR status code anomaly, previous successful runs, this test ran 3 times earlier with status code of 200, now it's 400. The same with the duration. So also we have an anomaly here. Usually on successful runs, the average is 21 millisecond for it to be executed. Now it was 328 milliseconds. In this example, we have as well the HTML itself. So here you can see that those are the changes between the times that the test have passed comparing to this time that the test has failed. So for example, if a locator has been changed or any such change in the UI which has caused the test to fail, it will be highlighted here, so you don't have to run the test again in debug mode and try to figure out what has changed this time that caused the test to fail. And those are just two examples of what is done here. All the data that I've mentioned that Shield34 collects being compared and will be highlighted here, so you won't have to research for those parameters manually, so it could save you lots and lots of time. We hope that you have found this video informative enough to start working with Shield34. We would love to get your feedback, comments on the video itself, on the product, things that you think are very helpful and you would like maybe to explore them more, or stuff that the product is lacking and you would love it if we could add it. You can provide us all this feedback through the chat window here, so you can start a conversation and just tell us what you think, or you can here search our knowledge base, our help center, and find an answer to maybe a question that you have in mind. So we would love to get your feedback. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.